You wake up, but something feels wrong. The body moves, but the mind is still locked in chains. The day hasn't even started, and you already feel the weight of everything within you. The thoughts, the tension in your chest. Even the silence feels heavy. You look around, and everything seems fine. Work waits for you. Your phone vibrates with messages disguised as opportunities, and the world keeps whispering, "Come on, you can do this." But here's a truth that no one might have told you. You're not just tired, you're sick. And this sickness isn't just inside you, it's all around. We live in a world where suffering no longer has a face. There are no prison bars, no shouting bosses, no direct oppression. But there's something far more cruel, the invisible imperative of performance. You've become your own oppressor. The order once imposed on you from the outside has turned into a constant whisper inside your head. That whisper says, you need to do more, be more, produce more. Don't stop, never stop. This is the society of performance, as philosopher Byung-Chul calls it. A system where you believe you're free, but in reality, you're more trapped than ever. Trapped by the idea that every second must be productive. Every action must yield results. Every breath must take you somewhere. And if you stop, if you fail, if you rest, then you believe you have no worth. Positivity has turned into poison. Freedom has become your handcuffs. The ability to do everything has become the curse of never being able to stop. Do you feel guilty when you're not producing? Anxious when you're not responding to messages? Frustrated when you don't meet your own goals, even when no one is demanding it? This isn't just stress. This isn't just fatigue. This is burnout, but not the kind of burnout a weekend break can solve. No, this is existential burnout, the kind that empties you inside while you pretend to be normal on the outside. And if all of this feels familiar, it's not a coincidence. It's because you're inside the system that wants you to believe that this is normal, but it's not. This video isn't about telling you to produce more. It's about waking you up to something deeper, because maybe, for the first time, someone is telling you, you are not weak. You are not failing. You are simply trying to survive in a society that makes the strong weak. Take a deep breath. We're going to talk about this. And no, you're not alone. The old ways of control. For a long time, power used to rely on shouts. There were prisons, barracks, factories, asylums, clear orders. Sit down, be quiet, obey. Michel Foucault called this the disciplinary society. The logic was simple. Someone commanded. You obeyed. There was always someone watching you, pruning you, shaping you. But this world, the one full of visible prohibitions, is fading away. What's replacing it is something far more sophisticated and cruel. Today, almost no one is explicitly telling you you can't. Instead, everyone is telling you, you can do anything. You are free. You have unlimited potential. It's just a matter of effort, focus, and discipline. And while this message seems positive and motivating, it carries a hidden trap. When everything depends only on you, any failure is also your fault. This is the essence of the performance society we live in now. The prison no longer has walls, but it has goals. The punishment isn't physical, but psychological. And who demands from you? You. You have become the entrepreneur of your own life. And what's the problem with that? An entrepreneur can never stop. They can always improve. They can always grow. They can always do more. This traps you in an infinite race, with no finish line, no rest, and no truce. Have you noticed how even leisure has become a goal? Reading is good, but now it has to be productive reading. Meditation is a performance technique. Exercise is a mandatory task. Even sleep has turned into a battlefield. You monitor its quality, calculate the hours, optimize your nighttime routine. Resting is no longer resting. It's preparing to perform better tomorrow. You don't live. You manage yourself. And when you fail, when you can't cope, when you get sick, when you freeze, you blame yourself. Because after all, no one prohibited you from anything, right? You had freedom. You had choice. You just had to make an effort. But that's where the perversity lies. The new form of oppression is making you believe that you are oppressing yourself willingly. Control has changed form. It has left the figure of the boss and entered your head. You have become the guard of your own prison. The wall is now invisible, but it's there, built with expectations, metrics, productivity, and self-demand. The wall you can't see this wall, is harder to break because you no longer know where the system ends and where you begin. But if all of this is crushing you from within, it's because something is deeply wrong with this model. It is not natural to live in war with yourself. And this silent war is leaving marks on your mind, on your body, on your soul. That's what we'll talk about next. Because this exhaustion that consumes you doesn't come from an external enemy. It comes from within, and it's fed by something that seems harmless, but is not: excessive positivity. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and join the conversation. Thank you for your support. The hidden cost of positivity. You learn to smile while falling apart inside. To say everything is fine when you're actually on the brink of collapse. To maintain an image of control, efficiency, and enthusiasm, even when everything inside you screams for a pause. And do you know why? Because we live immersed in a new kind of violence. A violence that doesn't hit, doesn't shout, doesn't impose. It seduces, it invites, it motivates. It is the violence of positivity. Byung-Chul warns us, the 21st century is no longer dominated by diseases caused by repression. We no longer live in times of censorship, strict prohibitions, or forcefully imposed limits. What makes us sick today is not the you can't, it is the yes, you can. What corrodes from within is not classic oppression, but the excess of stimulation, the excess of apparent freedom, the excess of positive demand. The order now is to smile, to produce, to optimize, to always be happy. But this excess comes at a high cost. Depression, ADHD, anxiety, and burnout are no longer individual pathological deviations. They are social symptoms. They are the psychic responses of a body and mind that can no longer bear the weight of continuous performance. In today's world, you are no longer just a person. You have become a project, an investment, a brand. You must constantly develop, sell yourself, and reinvent yourself. Not because you necessarily want to, but because if you don't,
If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support.
the world will erase you, exclude you, call you outdated, lazy, irrelevant. And here's the perverse part. This pressure doesn't come from an external boss anymore. It's no longer a government, a visible authority, or a power structure imposing these demands on you. It comes from within. You've become a product of yourself. And worse, you've become your own executioner. Byung-Chul calls this self-exploitation. You no longer need a boss watching over you. You demand from yourself. You control yourself. You punish yourself. Productivity has become the new form of obedience. You think you're in control of your life because you have the freedom to choose, create, innovate, and chase your dreams. But what no one told you is that this freedom is a lie. Every path available to you leads to the same destination. More work, more demands, more acceleration. Even what once served as refuge, things that used to give you peace and joy, have become extensions of your performance. The body has turned into a machine to be optimized. The mind, a tool for managing goals. Relationships have become networking. Spirituality has been reduced to coaching. Rest is now just preparation to perform better tomorrow. Even your free time is analyzed, monetized, and maximized. You have become a company, and the only employee in that company is you. But no one can sustain this for long, and you're starting to feel it. The overload is not just physical, it's existential. You are present everywhere except within yourself. You are always functioning but never really living. Deep down, you know that the more you try to fit into this ideal of success, the further you feel from your essence. The tyranny of yes, you can. And here's the question. Few have the courage to ask, what have you lost in this process? What was silenced while you were chasing the next achievement, the next task, the next version of yourself? What was set aside in your pursuit of always being better? There is a part of you that may not even remember what it's like to exist without having to justify your existence. When was the last time you allowed yourself to simply do nothing? Not to plan, not to respond, not to consume, not to justify yourself, just to be, to breathe, to let time pass without the pressure of having to prove you're not wasting it. Perhaps you don't even know how to do that anymore, and it's not your fault. You've been trained to always be active, always available, always connected. Any moment of pause is quickly filled by a notification, a new task, a short video, or a motivational quote. Leisure has become waste. Silence has become discomfort. Boredom has become an enemy to be exterminated. But let me tell you something that no one talks about. Deep boredom is not a flaw. It is a portal. Byung-Chul explains that in the past, boredom was fertile ground for creation, reflection, and true presence. It was within this space that philosophy, art, and spirituality were born. Because boredom, the kind that makes you confront yourself, that forces you to slow down, to be still, opens the space for contemplation. And it's in contemplation that you reconnect with your humanity. Today, we live immersed in fragmented attention. We jump from one stimulus to another, like animals on high alert. Multitasking is no longer a skill. It's a survival instinct. You watch a video while responding to messages, while thinking about tomorrow's meeting, while feeling guilty for not doing more. The present moment has become unbearable. And this mental hyperactivity comes at a cost. It robs you of depth. It disconnects you from the world, from others, from yourself. The price of constant connectivity. You get used to consuming everything at the surface level, including your own emotions. You feel, but you don't dive deep. You reflect, but you don't deepen. You live, but you don't inhabit. That's why you feel tired even after sleeping, anxious even in silence, disconnected even when surrounded by people. Because your soul has been trained to run, but it has forgotten how to stop. And stopping is not weakness. Stopping is a reunion. It's in silence that you hear what the rush hides. It's in the pause that you realize how wounded you are. It's in the emptiness that you rediscover who you are without all those layers of productivity placed upon you. But this return to being requires courage. Courage to slow down. Courage to face the discomfort of having nothing to do. Courage to sit in the emptiness until it becomes fertile. And above all, courage to say no to the imperative of performance. And this brings us to one of the most revolutionary points of Han's thought. A concept that may seem strange at first, but perhaps holds the only real way out of this crisis we are living. The not being able as a form of freedom. In the next part, we will explore why stopping can be the most powerful act you can commit, and why perhaps the true rebel of our time is the one who has the courage to do nothing. In the world we live in today, we are trained to believe that freedom is the ability to do everything. We are told that the more options we have, the freer we are, that the ideal life is one full of achievements, movement, and autonomous decisions. But what no one explained to you is that this excess of power, choice, and initiative is also a prison. And perhaps it is the most disguised and dangerous of all. The logic of our society is simple. If you are not doing something, you are wasting your life. Everything must have a purpose, a utility, a result. Even rest needs to justify its existence as energy recovery. Even silence must be sold as strategic self-care. Everything needs to make sense. Everything needs to be profitable. Everything needs to generate something. But what happens when there's nothing to generate? What if your worth doesn't depend on what you can do or produce? What if there is value simply in being? Byung-Chul presents us with a radical idea. True freedom begins when you reclaim the right not to do, not to act, not to want, not to be useful, to simply not be able to. This may seem counterintuitive at first. After all, we spend our whole lives trying to achieve the power to do, the power to travel, the power to produce, the power to achieve, the power to decide. But the power to do has become an imperative. You can, so you must. What if you don't want to? What if you can't? What if you are simply tired? The answer you hear from society is clear. You have failed. In this model, there is no room for vulnerability. There is no room for saying no. Everything that does not fit into this logic of action, achievement, and growth is seen as a deviation, weakness, laziness. But what if it is precisely in that space of refusal that true strength lies? Saying no is an act of power. Refusing excess, haste, and overload is an act of resistance. Not wanting to improve all the time, not accepting every opportunity, not following all advice, not answering every call, saying no to the world in order to say yes to yourself. This not being able is revolutionary. It breaks the logic of infinite productivity. It shatters the myth of being the best. It returns to the human being what was taken from them, the ability to exist without having to constantly prove their worth. The myth of always on and its hidden costs. In this constant race to be better, to improve, to grow, We forget the essential truth. We are human, not machines. But society wants us to believe that we are always on. We must always be striving, always reaching, always achieving. And in the process, we lose our connection to ourselves. You see, we've been taught to believe that the more we produce, the more we exist. The more we achieve, the more we are. But in this quest to prove our worth, we become disconnected from who we truly are. Our worth is not in what we do, it is in who we are. We've been told that every second must be maximized, every hour must be filled with purpose. But this approach has left us empty. We are so focused on what we're doing that we forget to ask, why am I doing this? What is this really for? In the process, we have become a society of endless doers and never enough beings. The problem isn't that we're doing too much, it's that we've forgotten what it means to simply be, to exist without the pressure to constantly perform, to always have a purpose, to always be achieving something. But here's the truth. Rest is not laziness. Silence is not emptiness. Boredom is not failure. These are the spaces where we reconnect with ourselves. These are the moments where we find clarity and strength. The power of saying no. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but saying no is a profound act of liberation. In a world that demands everything from you, reclaiming the power to refuse is a radical act. It's not just a refusal to do more. It's a refusal to be consumed by a system that doesn't care about your well-being. By saying no, you are taking back control. You are stepping out of the race. You are telling the world, I will not live for your approval. I will not live to prove myself. I will live for me. Saying no doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. It makes you brave. Because in a world where everyone is chasing after the next achievement, the ability to stop, to rest, to simply be, is the greatest act of resistance. And this is where the true power lies, in surrender, in not needing to fight, in not needing to keep pushing, in accepting that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. This is where true freedom resides, in the power to do nothing. Embracing the freedom of not doing. As we look at this new form of freedom, the freedom not to do, we begin to see how profound it is. In our fast-paced world, we've been conditioned to believe that we must always be doing something. Whether it's work, relationships, social media, or personal development, there's always something demanding our time, our energy, our attention. And in the process, we've lost touch with the most important thing, ourselves. The freedom not to do is not about rejecting productivity. It's about reclaiming control over your life. It's about recognizing that your worth does not depend on your output. It's about learning to rest, to pause, to simply exist without the constant pressure to prove yourself. And it's time we embrace this freedom, not as a weakness, but as a strength. Not as a retreat, but as a powerful act of self-care. To reclaim the power of rest, of silence, of doing nothing, is to rediscover who you truly are. Outside the noise, outside the expectations, outside the demands of the world. So, what does this look like in practice? It means reclaiming your time. It means saying no to things that drain you. It means allowing yourself the space to be still. It means taking a step back from the relentless race of self-optimization. And most importantly, it means embracing the power of simply being. There's a saying that goes, the most productive thing you can do is rest. It may sound counterintuitive, especially in a society that prizes constant activity. But what if the greatest act of productivity is precisely not doing? What if the true strength lies in giving yourself permission to pause, to stop, to step away from the never-ending cycle of doing? In our world, we are taught that time is money, and that every moment must be accounted for. We chase goals, accumulate achievements, and race against the clock, believing that our worth is directly tied to our productivity. We fill our days with tasks and to-do lists, constantly moving forward, thinking that if we just keep going, we will eventually reach some form of satisfaction. But the truth is, no matter how fast we go, no matter how many goals we accomplish, the feeling of fulfillment is fleeting. The satisfaction we seek is always just beyond our reach, because we are chasing it outside of ourselves, in the constant doing, achieving, and accumulating. The only way to truly find peace and fulfillment is to stop running, to stop measuring your value based on what you produce, to stop thinking that every breath must take you somewhere. The myth of infinite productivity. Let's take a step back And look at this myth we've been sold. The myth that infinite productivity is both possible and desirable. We've been told that in order to be successful, we must constantly strive for more. We must push through the exhaustion, the stress, the burnout, because success is the only thing that matters. The problem with this belief is that it ignores the very core of who we are. Success has become synonymous with constant busyness. But let's ask ourselves, when did we start equating our worth with how much we do? Why is it that the more we accomplish, the less we feel accomplished? Why do we equate doing with being? Why does the pause, the rest, the silence feel like a waste? The truth is that we were not designed to run on an endless loop of productivity. We were designed to breathe, to rest, to think, to create, not just to consume and produce. Our society has turned us into machines, constantly running, constantly optimizing, constantly seeking the next achievement. But when does it stop? And what do we lose in the process? The silent war within. This is the silent war we are fighting. It's the battle between the external demands of the world and the internal needs of our soul. The world tells us to keep moving, to keep producing, to keep achieving. It praises us for our speed, our output, our hustle. But within, we are drained. We are tired. We are empty. And here's the most insidious part of it all. We have come to believe that this exhaustion is normal, that it's just part of the game, that we must keep going, no matter the cost. The more tired we become, the more we think we need to push. But all this does is wear us down further. The answer is not in more doing. The answer is in being. Being present. Being still. Being at peace with where we are right now. The most radical thing we can do in a world that demands more from us is to say, enough. To say no to the constant demands, to the endless stream of notifications, to the idea that we must be constantly producing to have value. To say no to the tyranny of productivity. Rediscovering the lost art of being. The more we say yes to everything the world throws at us, the further we move away from ourselves. We lose touch with the part of us that just wants to exist, to feel, to experience life without the pressure to optimize every moment. And in this constant rush, we forget that life is not about doing, it's about being. What does it mean to just be? It means allowing ourselves to rest without guilt. It means allowing ourselves to do nothing without feeling unworthy. It means sitting with the discomfort of not being productive and finding peace in the stillness. It means giving ourselves permission to just exist. We've lost this ability in our relentless chase for more, but it's time to rediscover it. It's time to embrace the silence, the boredom, and the stillness. Because it's in these moments that we reconnect with who we truly are, outside of the demands and expectations placed upon us by society. The courage to stop. This is the courage we need to cultivate. The courage to stop. The courage to say, I am enough just as I am. The courage to take a break without guilt, to rest without justification. The courage to pause and listen to ourselves, to feel our emotions, to reconnect with our inner world. This is not weakness. It is strength. It is not resignation. It is resistance. Resistance against a system that demands too much from us. Resistance against the endless pursuit of more. Resistance against the lie that we are only valuable when we are doing something. By learning to say no, we begin to reclaim control over our lives. We stop being slaves to the system and become sovereign over our own existence. Saying no is the ultimate act of freedom because it means we are no longer driven by external expectations. We are driven by our own values, our own needs, our own truths. A new way forward. As we reclaim the ability to stop, to rest, to just be, we begin to see the world differently. We stop chasing after the next achievement and start embracing the present moment. We stop trying to prove ourselves to others and start living for ourselves. The world will keep pushing us, telling us to do more, be more, achieve more. But we don't have to listen. We don't have to buy into the myth of endless productivity. We don't have to sacrifice ourselves on the altar of success. It's time to let go, to embrace the pause, to breathe, to reconnect with the deepest part of ourselves that has been buried beneath the pressure to constantly perform. In this space, we find our true freedom, the freedom not to do, the freedom to just be.